Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Real Joe Quinn. As we near the end of February and head towards some March Madness, and we're already seeing that with this weather, especially in the DMV area. 60 one day and 25 the next, basically. So, hopefully everybody enjoyed these last couple of days. But about to get cold again, a little colder tomorrow. But this is a transitional part of the sports calendar where the NBA and really college basketball and the NBA kind of take hold of the sports world, and also, people behaving badly, they're doing dumb shit. Hopefully there's no criminal activity, but this is that time of year where you'll see some shit that just come out of nowhere. Like, oh damn, I can't believe that happened. So we will be focusing certainly on this will be an NBA driven podcast moving forward, and of course we'll do some college basketball as well as March approaches and we get into the teeth of the conference championships and the NCAA tournament, which should be again wide open this year. I mean, there's not, Connecticut is very good. There's some top teams that are very good, but there's no dominant team as good as Connecticut is, and Connecticut certainly can repeat. There's no dominant team whatsoever. But we begin with the National Basketball Association and the deep dive, which to me was easy. Looking at the current state of the Western Conference, it's just it's really remarkable how exciting the Western Conference is going to be this year, or has been this year, and will be until as we go into March and as we get into the postseason. Now, and contrary to past years, you can see the transition of the NBA inside in the Western Conference. It's happening right before your eyes. You have three young upstarts in OKC, Sacramento, the Pelicans, and also to a lesser extent Minnesota. Minnesota has more experience than what you realize, but their best player is 22 years old in Anthony in terms of Anthony Edwards. So you can see them come. They're not coming. They're here. Those teams are here. Those teams, any one of those teams outside New Orleans could possibly get to the finals. I don't think New Orleans can get to the finals, but they would be, a handful to deal with in the postseason possibly. But I don't think they can get to the finals. But, Oklahoma City, it's not a matter of if, it's when they win a championship. Oklahoma City is going to be a championship franchise. They are. Maybe not this year, but they are coming. They're coming fast. And, they as of right now, you have Minnesota and Oklahoma City in the 1 and 2 spots in the Western Conference. And of course you have the team to beat to me in the NBA and in the Western Conference in the NBA, and that's the Denver Nuggets. Denver, of course, knows who they are. They have the best player in the sport. They have a wealth of, they have in terms of that starting five, that 1-2 punch, we know what they're made of. But they're not a dominant team. Like, I don't think Denver is going to be a dynasty. I think Denver will win multiple championships, but I don't think they're going to be a dynasty because the league is too talented. Excuse me. The league is too talented, especially in the Western Conference, and they're not a dominant team. And the league is designed that way, with the luxury tax and the second and third apron. And where you're not going to see a Lakers of the 2000s or Golden State of the 2020s. Those days in the NBA are done, period. And that's frankly how the league wants it. So, and then of course you have you have the old stalwarts, Phoenix, the Clippers, Lakers, and Warriors. Lakers and Warriors right now would be in a play-in game right now. They're in 9th and 10th place. Clippers and Phoenix, 4 and 5. Clippers are, of course, right now in much better shape than Phoenix. I don't trust Phoenix. I think Phoenix is too top heavy. I don't see all those guys staying healthy. And even if they are healthy, I think they will eventually run out of gas as far as them making a serious title run. Clippers, this could be their best chance moving. Like, this could be really their best chance to get to the finals. And again, I don't care how well the Clippers play in the regular season. They don't, by any stretch of the imagination, get a benefit of the doubt with me. I have to see them in the postseason, point blank. And of course, Golden State and Lakers. Golden State and Lakers, who are like aging singers, to me, their best days are behind them. I don't believe in either one of those teams, especially as a Laker fan. If you ask me which one do I trust more right now, I probably have to lean towards Golden State, to be honest with you. I think Golden State, out of those, has the best player between those two teams in Steph Curry. And right now, Golden State is getting healthy at the right time. Golden State is 8-2 in their last 10 games. Now they had a loss to Denver. That Denver kind of flexed their. Denver they own Golden State, so that's nothing new. But their other losses have been relatively close losses. Steph Curry is playing, is doing Steph Curry shit. And finally, Steve Kerr finally decided that Jonathan Kuminga should actually be getting minutes. So it took him basically almost up until January to figure that out. But he finally has figured it out. Like I said, they got Peyton back. They just got Chris Paul back, which adds to their depth. So Golden State is in a nice place to possibly move up to like 8th spot. I don't, or maybe even higher, maybe in the 7th spot. I don't see them challenging for, who knows with Phoenix. Phoenix could fall off. Golden State has a chance to move up, maybe even to the 5th spot, possibly. But if you are in that 7 to 10 spot, obviously you want to get out. You don't want to be in the play-in tournament. Like, you want to avoid that. The West is too deep to be playing extra games. Like, the West is just way too deep for that from that standpoint. But this is a very interesting year in the Western Conference. It really is. And like I said, if you made me choose a team to come out the West, I think Denver, based on the fact of Jokic, their experience, and their knowing who they are from an identity standpoint, they would be my, the odds-on favorite to come out. But again, it's going to be very interesting watching these younger teams. Young teams just don't come out nowhere and win a championship. I mean, even Golden State, before they won 15, they were very young, but they, lost in the first round to the Clippers the year before in 2014, 2013. Of course, they upset Denver in the first round and then scared the shit out of San Antonio. A year that San Antonio actually got to the finals and probably should have beat Miami in 2013. So even they had to go through some bit of, I ain't gonna say heartbreak, but even they had to go through a tough 2 playoff rounds in 2013 and a 7-game series, which really was one of the best first round series of probably the 2010s with that Clipper series, which was a great, with Chris Paul basically the game winning shot in Game 7. That was a great basketball series. That was a great series that year in 2014. So, like Golden State, that series was 20. Excuse me, that series. The Clippers San Antonio was 2015. The Golden State Clipper series, that was 2014. But right now, like, in a situation where if you're in the West, you just want to be healthy and playing good basketball going into April. It's just the main thing is the dynamic of a season, especially for these teams, especially for some of these older teams. Phoenix, the Lakers, like these are teams. You got to be a little concerned if you're Lakers with LeBron's ankle. Phoenix, again, just one injury away from their season being done with their top 3. And right now, Bradley Beal, who hasn't been healthy for the better part of the last 4 to 5 years, is, you have to be concerned, can he make it through a playoffs? Can make it through 3 rounds of the playoffs? Right now, I would say no. And they're not, if all of those guys aren't at 100% performing at their top of their games, then they just don't have a chance. They just don't. But the team with the most pressure, to me, by far and away, will go into the playoffs will be the Los Angeles Clippers. They have everybody for relatively healthy. You have a situation where, Kawhi and Paul George have played in a lot of games. I know Paul George has missed some games recently, but Kawhi has been healthy and played phenomenal basketball. Kawhi probably will make, probably at worst, will be second team All NBA. Has an outside chance of being first team, but he'll probably be second team All NBA. He's been spectacular, and you know how deep the Clippers are coming off the bench with Westbrook and what have you. So, and we know what type of coach Ty Lue is. Championship coach, and a guy who can be as good as anybody outside of Eric Spoelstra in the playoffs. And of course, you have a guy on a team who's not going anywhere, but is must-watch TV every time he steps on the floor, Victor Wembanyama, who, to me, I'm not saying he's clinched Rookie of the Year, but if he's healthy, if he stays healthy, you're hard-pressed. You'd be hard pressed not to see him, not to be Rookie of the Year. With all due respect to Chet Holmgren, who's played well, extremely well, and is on the playoff team, a team that is a title contender. The bottom line is Wembanyama is a better player, and frankly, has had a better year, especially since the start of the calendar year in January. He's taken off. We saw him last week have a 5-by-5 game. He's changing. He's going to be a multiple Defensive Player of the Year winner. He'll win at least 3 or 4 of those, if not more. And this guy is a generational talent. There's all there is to it. Like, you cannot teach what he does or what he can do. He started shooting, but his 3-point percentage is going up a bit. They finally have started to actually pass him the basketball, which is kind of smart, considering that he's by far and away the best player. And he's doing this in basically 28 minutes of play. I would like to personally see those minutes go up to about 32, 33. He's only 20 years old. We don't have to treat him like porcelain here. He has no history of injuries, any major catastrophic injuries. I understand you want to handle him with somewhat kid gloves, but look, he's 20 years old. He's used to playing over in Europe. He's used to playing a lot of basketball. So I think you can up those minutes by 4 or 5 minutes going down the stretch. I mean, he should be over 30 minutes a game before the season ends. So a lot to watch in the Western Conference. And I didn't even mention the Sacramento Kings. So a lot of people are not big on Sacramento because they feel like Domantas Sabonis can't be your best player or second best player on a team that can make a serious run. Sabonis has been spectacular this year. He has taken a step up without question. Some of my guy is basically averaging 20, 13, and 9, shooting 61% from the field and over 40% from the three-point line. The only thing he doesn't do is he's not a great defender, as we all know, but he also is only 69% from the free throw line, which you don't like to see out of your big man. But he legitimately has a chance to be All NBA and should have been an All-Star. He should have been an All-Star over Anthony Davis. That was just, I don't understand how the Lakers got 2 All-Stars. Like, that was just, insane how he was not an All-Star. But the Kings are I've been watching the Kings lately. The Kings are very impressive. They have a guy in De'Aaron Fox who is absolutely not scared of anyone. He thinks he's the best player on the floor when he steps out on the court. Remember, they took Golden State to 7 games last year, so they got a little playoff experience. They're a team that, if you told me that they were in the Western Conference Finals, I wouldn't be shocked. Be slightly surprised, but you can't tell me that I would be shocked if they were in the Western Conference Finals. I just there's a feel to that team. There's an intangible about that team that I really like. I really do. So I love what's going on in the Western Conference. A lot of talent. It's all over the place. From night to night. Not there. You're gonna get good even the bad teams have a talent in terms of Houston, San Antonio, Utah. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be very fun to watch down the stretch. So you have a situation where from the number 4 to number 8 slots only separated by 5 games. So from Clippers to where Golden State is at, 4 to 8 are separated by 5 games. Even more so, numbers 5 through 8 is only separated by 3 games. Or no, excuse me, 1 game. So Phoenix, New Orleans, Dallas, and Sacramento are all battling to, 1, stay out the play-in spot, stay out the play-in game, and 2, make a slight miracle run at the number 4 spot. I think the first 4 in the Western Conference are set for the most part, unless injuries withstand. I think Minnesota, somewhere in whatever order, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, and the Clippers will be your top 4. Everything after that is absolutely up in the air. Teams transitional podcast. We'll get to the Cam Newton stuff later. I know it's a little somewhat dated. It happened this weekend, but I'll get to it later on in the podcast. I want to talk about Bronny James for a moment. Of course, ESPN comes out with their mock draft that removed Bronny James from 2024 and placed him in the 2025 draft class. Here's what LeBron James said about that. Well, he tweeted, then had the tweet removed Monday or Sunday? No, Sunday. This was Sunday, over the weekend. He says, "Can y'all please let the kid be a kid and enjoy college basketball?" James wrote Monday afternoon, "The work and results will ultimately do the talking no matter what he decides to do. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what a mock draft says. He works, earned, not given. And to all the other kids out there striving to be great, just keep your head down, blinders on, and keep grinding. These mock drafts doesn't really matter one bit. I promise you, only the work matters. Let's talk real basketball, people." So here's the thing. First of all, the mock drafts do matter. They matter from a standpoint of people who put these drafts together are basically working on the clock 365 in basketball, in particular, in basketball, football, and whatever sport. Like this is their lives, their careers. They eat, sleep, and shit this. So yeah, they can't predict what type of player you're going to become. We understand that. But in terms of where you're going to get drafted, they're normally very accurate from that standpoint. Like normally, if a guy is going to be a lottery pick and stays, normally if a guy is projected to be a lottery pick in a mock draft leading up to the draft, and he's still projected to be a lottery pick, chances are that guy will be a lottery pick. Pure and simple. So from that standpoint, they do matter. And the thing about it is, it's kind of, LeBron is kind of, in a way, contradicting himself in terms of his actions versus what he's saying. Like, put your head down and do the work. Yeah, that sounds great, but is part of doing the work posting videos of yourself or of Bronny or of his brother, which he has done before? Like, he's posted videos of Bronny and his brother working out. We've seen that. Okay, he's going out and publicly made statements saying Bronny could, or tweeted and what have you, Bronny could, is better than a few of these guys in the NBA, or Bronny could play for the Lakers. Whether he believes that or not, maybe he's trying to tweak the Lakers, or maybe he's just talking shit. It doesn't matter. These actions add to the attention that Bronny James already will get because he's LeBron James's son. And it's all in the game. There's no protection from the media. Like, there's no protecting Bronny James from the media. But LeBron James can protect Bronny James from LeBron James. He absolutely can do that from a standpoint of putting extra pressure. Remember, LeBron James verbatim basically said, playing with my son would be my greatest accomplishment. And if you don't think that's pressure, then you're just not paying attention. And I wonder, does LeBron James want Bronny James in the NBA? Does Bronny James want to be in the NBA as bad as LeBron James wants him to be in the NBA, and more importantly, wants him to play with him someday? I wondered about that. I can't answer that question. I'm not in Bron. I don't know the what's in Bronny James's heart. I'm assuming he likes basketball. I'm assuming that, he works pretty hard. He's talented. He's, made it to Division I-A college basketball. But yeah, it just seems to me like this is, it's kind of like this is LeBron James's dream as much, if not more so, than it is Bronny James's dream. And the truth of the matter is, in regards to the media, I think the media has been more than fair with Bronny James. I haven't seen just ridiculous criticism about Bronny James Jr. or outlandish. And forget about Twitter. I don't care what's on Twitter. I'm talking about by national media people. I'm not talking about a blogger who hates LeBron James. I'm talking about just regular national basketball media. The truth of the matter is, you look at Bronny James this year, look at his numbers, look at the impact that he's had at USC. He's been just an okay player. Like, he hasn't stood out, which, by the way, is okay, because, the young man had a cardiac arrest back in, last August or July. I think it was July, last summer. So to me, I went in with the mindset of you got to give this dude at least a year in terms of a grace period. Like that, think about the physical damage, but the psychological damage, you're just not going to miss it the amount of time that he missed and just come back and just set the world on fire. I just didn't see that this year. I really didn't. The fact that he's on the court is a big deal to me. I didn't know that he would even play this year when that went down. So he deserves a lot of credit from that standpoint of being back on the court. But I have not seen this just onslaught of criticism or hating or national media ripping LeBron James Jr., Bronny James to shreds. I have not seen that. I just haven't. And LeBron James should know this better than anyone. Grew up in the internet era. Excuse me. He is one of the most scrutinized, polarized, famous athletes to ever play a sport. Like, he understands what time it is when it comes to the type of, or should have, when it was going to come to the type of scrutiny that his son was going to receive. That's like, this is why I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand what he's trying to accomplish here. You're not going to control what the media says about LeBron James Jr. You're just not. Let his play do the talking. Because bottom line, if he plays well, he won't get criticized to that level. He just won't. Outside of, say, a Skip Bayless. But I think that I think LeBron James should start taking his own advice when it comes to his son. How about not publicly talking about your son in terms of basketball? How about that? Like, you don't have to talk. You literally don't have to talk about your son as a basketball player. Like, you want to bring him up, you can talk about him. You know, hey, proud of my son, keep it moving. Or you don't like. We don't need to hear about Bronny James from LeBron James. To be honest with you, because to my earlier point, doing the work is not about who sees it, or it's not about broadcasting it. It's not about putting it on the social media. It's about just doing the work and letting the results speak for themselves when he gets out there on that court over the course of time as he progresses as a basketball player, matures as a basketball player, and gets back to being 100% physically as well as psychologically. We're going to switch over to one of the most talented and frankly, one of the best players in the world, somewhere in that 5 to 7 range. I mean, you can make a case that he's arguably top 5 without question. Luka Doncic just turned 25 today. I believe they won. I'm pretty sure that they won tonight. I'll look it up real quick. Last time I checked that they won. Just typical Dallas. Wild offensive game between Toronto. Luka in this game scores 30 points, 16 assists, and 11 rebounds. Just basically a typical night for Luka in the sense that he's basically like 30, 35, 9, and 8 for this year. He's going to make another first team All NBA. More than likely, he's going to be, he will be first team All NBA, probably. You look at the totality of his stats over the course of his first, now year 6 of his career. And, they're spectacular. He's going to have by the time the season ends, he'll probably have over 11,000 points total. His career averages for his career, he's at 28.5 points, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds. This year, again, he's been spectacular. But here's the thing about Luka, and I said that's the reason why I titled it the Luka Conundrum. I don't think you can win a championship with Luka playing. Matter of fact, I know you can't win a championship with Luka playing the style that he plays. Now, let me make this clear. From a talent standpoint, Luka Doncic absolutely can be the best player on a championship team. There's no question about it. Like, that's not what I'm saying that he can't be. What I'm saying to you is no player, and I dug up this research, has won a championship leading the NBA in usage rate since Michael Jordan in 1998. Jordan did it 5 times over his career where he led the NBA in usage. The last year he did it was in 98, where he had a usage rate in 97-98 season. He had a usage rate of 30. Just real quick. Just saw it. Where did it go? So many of these stats, so many of these numbers here. His usage rate was over 30. It was in the 30s. Jordan was also the last to average 30 points and win a championship in the 92-93 season. Luka right now is averaging 34.8. So more like guys who average 30 points don't win championships. That just doesn't happen. But the usage thing is important because he kind of reminds me of I think he's a better version of what James Harden was when James Harden was putting up those insane numbers and going to the free throw line like 1,000,000 times a game. In a 3-season period where he was averaging like 30 and then 36 points, and where he led the league in scoring and finished top 3 in the MVP, finished 3 straight seasons in the top 3 in the MVP, winning his first and only MVP in 2008 and 2018. Now, Luka is a better shooter and more efficient than Harden is, but their numbers are basically close to being the same or very similar. And their style of play in terms of their usage rate is similar as well. And you're not winning a title with a player dominating the basketball in today's game like that. You're just not. And it's going to be interesting, first of all, to find players who will want to play with Luka in terms of that style. But more importantly, can the organization, Jason Kidd, can they shift Luka's mindset to convince him, a guy who is a supermax player, a guy who is a superstar, a guy who's one of the best players in the world, can they shift him and say, Luka, you're great, your numbers are great, but we can't win like this? Can they convince him? You're going to have to make a choice. Numbers versus winning. You can't win like this. They got to the Western Conference Finals a few years back. That was a fluke. The West was down. As dangerous as they would to be in a first round series, they're not long for a Western Conference Finals run this year. And with him playing that style of basketball. Because in the playoffs, that style is very defendable. Now, again, you want to say, well, it's not a fair comparison with Harden and Luka. It is. But you want to say, well, Luka is a far superior playoff performer versus Harden. You're absolutely right. He is. But Harden never got to the finals with Houston. Okay, not only playing that style, but also Luka doesn't have as much talent around him as Harden had in those years that he was with Houston. So yeah, Harden came up small in the playoffs during those particular years, but we also had more talent than Luka. So that kind of bounces out. Luka's going to be more productive, but Harden has just better players around him in terms of role players. Remember, one of those teams in 2018 should have not 2018, it's 2017. That 2017 Rocket team probably should have went to the got my years mixed up. That 2018 Rocket team had Golden State on the ropes. Remember, they're up 3-2. They lose game 7 at home. We understand what happened to Chris Paul, and Golden State took advantage of it. They were right there with Golden State. They were right there. Absolutely right there. So they got close. And that team would have beaten Cleveland. Even if Harden would have been average in the finals, they would have beaten Cleveland. That Cleveland team was a shell of what they were when Kyrie and company were there in 2016, 2017. That 2018 Cleveland team, that's the team that LeBron drugged to the finals. The winner of that Western Conference Finals in 2018 was winning the championship. Pure and simple. That's all it is to it. But I don't think you cannot win with that style of play with one guy dominating the basketball like that. You can't do it. I was watching Luka tonight, and when he doesn't have the ball, he might as well not even be on the court. He's not cutting. He's not posting up. He's not doing anything without the ball. Not setting screens on the ball. He's not doing nothing. And you look at these high usage guys. Some of these high usage guys in the last 5 to 6 years, Harden, Westbrook, when he was when he was running the show in Oklahoma City, was one of, that had a very high usage, especially his high usage, excuse me, especially his MVP season. And there's a pattern with those guys. They do nothing without the basketball. They don't cut. They basically might as well not be in the play. Like Harden does not. Harden, like I said, Harden does not move without the basketball. And Luka's the same way. Literally, I was focused on. I wasn't even really focusing on the game itself. I was just watching Luka. And like I said, when he didn't have the ball, standing behind the 3-point line, chilling, just chilling. Like really, that was it. So that's a major problem for Dallas moving forward and for the future of their franchise. You have to know, especially if Jason Kidd played on a championship team. He's been around for a long time, Hall of Fame guy, top 75 guy. You have to know you're Jason Kidd. We cannot look in big picture. We cannot win this way. And I think Jason Kidd's done a very good job at with improving their defense, somewhat holding Luka accountable. But that style of play won't do it. It won't at all. Who won the week? Obviously, Nikola Jokic. He comes out the All-Star break with 3 straight triple doubles, and not just, these are not like 12, 10, and 10. These are like just insane. I think he went for like 80 points, 50 assists, or 50 rebounds and 40 assists, something like that. And only like the last person to do that was Wilt Chamberlain in a 3-game stretch. And frankly, has vaulted himself to the top of the MVP list. Now, he'll be that MVP is going to be interesting because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just destroying people. Like, talking about averaging like 31 a game, shooting 55% from the field. He every single night he's putting on the show. So right now, those 2 guys are the leading candidates for MVP. If I had a vote, I would go Jokic by a nose. But if Oklahoma City finishes with the best record in the conference, it's gonna be hard. It'd be very hard not to give Shai the MVP. It'd be very hard not to give him the MVP if they finish with the best record in the conference. But Jokic has been just spectacular. Jokic on the season, and sometimes we just take his greatness somewhat can be taken for granted because he just, every night these up ridiculous numbers every single night. He's averaging 26, 9. 26, 12, and 9. 13th in scoring, 3rd in rebounding, 4th in assists, shooting 58% from the field, shooting 81% from the line, 35% from the 3-point line. They're on 34 minutes of play. Again, these 3 straight triple doubles. You're talking about 32, 16, and 16 against Golden State, 29, 14, and 15 against Portland, and 21, 15, and 19 against the Washington Wizards. So he's come out the gate just, again, playing just spectacular basketball as he has been basically for the entire season. You compare this to his season, to his MVP season, is very comparable. He's averaging more points. He's basically right. He's been better. Like outside of field goal percentage, he shot the ball better last year, but his rebounding is up this year. His rebounding is up, scoring is up. So he's playing as well as he played. He's playing as well as he played last year, where he didn't win the MVP. But he's very comparable to the years that he did indeed win MVP with the way he's playing right now. But again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA will be right there as far as the MVP race goes. Before I let you go, a couple of real thoughts. Let me before I get to the new podcast recommendations, I want to talk a little bit about the Cam Newton situation that happened over the weekend. Note that certainly by now you heard what transpired. You get a couple of Cam Newton's former coaches that used to work with him. Obviously, they had a disagreement. Apparently, the coaches from Top Shelf, one of the coaches said that he approached Cam Newton about how much shit that he was talking and taunt the teams. They beat his team. One of them decided for whatever reason to approach Cam Newton. Cam Newton apparently put his hands around the dude's neck, started choking him. Then the other brother said he came and tried to help his brother out. And that's when basically all hell broke loose. And you see Cam tossing guys around like, they were his kids. And you see Cam's players get involved in it until security had to break it up. So that went on Sunday. Here's what I'll say. First of all, this was not, I'm glad I'm doing this now. Because when this first came out, it made it seem the narrative out there based on the video, because we didn't have a lot of information to go on, made it seem like 4 dudes jumped Cam Newton for no reason, which that was not the case. Also, in this case, I as an educator of 21 years, I always look at this from a teaching standpoint. You're dealing with a number of young men. He does 7-on-7, highly competitive. His class, not his class, but his teams are like, these are, I believe 18 guys who are 18 and under or something like that. Apparently these guys who used to coach with him have beaten his teams before. He said, of course, this annoyed Cam Newton that he basically was talking shit from the start of the entire day, taunting them, challenging them to bet money and what have you. Here's the bottom line. You're not going to Jordan Poole me if I'm Cam Newton. So if you approach me with a certain type of energy, I'm swinging first. So whatever it is, however that, they approached him, he apparently felt threatened enough to put hands on the dude. Okay. The second part is your top shelf performance. You know Cam Newton. You know who Cam Newton is. Cam Newton is great of a community person that he's been as far as giving back to the community and what he does for young people, which he's tremendous. Can't take anything about him, take anything away from him. Cam could be a diva. That's all there's to it. Cam is very confident about he loves Cam Newton, which is fine. That's fine. Like, none of us are perfect, but whatever. Like, that's fine. Okay. And likes to talk shit. You know who Cam Newton is. So, Top Shelf, you had an opportunity to disassociate yourself from that type of energy and be like, you know what? We good. We good, Cam. We don't like how you disrespecting us. We're grown men. We're not going to be treated this way. So we don't even got to deal with you like that. We don't even have to be associated with you in terms of you playing against our teams or what have you. But it's Cam Newton, so you want that shine. You want those lights. You want those whatever. You want all the attention for your team. So you put up with bullshit, and eventually you can't handle it anymore. So you decide to do what you did. So I really don't have that much sympathy for Top Shelf, considering like they don't have to be associated with Cam Newton from that standpoint. And even after the fact, After all this is going down, they were talking about still, even I heard him on the interview talking about still wanting to work with him. So I'm like, really? You still, like, what are we doing here? So that just shows me that you care more about maybe the attention that you're getting from being associated with Cam Newton than having self-respect, respecting yourselves as grown men, and to where you're going to allow another grown man to allegedly disrespect you, or you lack some type of self-respect from that standpoint. Like, if I'm not vibing with somebody, we're not vibing. We can respectfully part ways and keep it moving. The most important part is, to me, is what these young men had to witness. Cam Newton, one of the kids last year, we saw it on video, was talking shit to you on the sidelines, calling you trash, right? Calling you trash. So you reciprocate that behavior with other grown men and coaches. What does a young person take away from that? How is that getting a young person better? Cam is not, he's not a victim here. He has some skin in the game in terms of this partially being his fault. So he doesn't get away scot free just because he turned these guys into some Twitter memes. He has a responsibility here. Now, again, you have to respect everything Cam Newton has done for his community. You have to. Whether you like how he dresses and all that other bullshit, or worry about his personal life and how many women and different kids by different women, whatever. That's his business. But as far as doing the work and putting in the work from that standpoint, he does the work, or has done the work. But if you're Cam Newton, you got to understand your influence on these young men and how much your actions or your words affect how they move and how they view you and how they will move in the future. You are, unlike what Charles Barkley said back in '92, you are a role model. Now, the third part is the reaction to this from certain media members, black media members, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, and there were a couple others as well. This idea that we choose to seek validation by saying shit like it had to be us, or this wouldn't have happened at Eli or Peyton Manning's camp or Drew Brees' camp, is the most it's a form of self-hatred, and it really is unnecessary from a standpoint of, you're basically saying that, white ice is colder. Like, you're seeking to put, those guys on a pedestal while basically shitting on things that are organized by black men, which to me serves no purpose whatsoever. Zero purpose. Bad behavior is bad behavior. Like, when you hear the phrase black on black crime, it's the most ignorant shit that it's just pure ignorance. Like, it's not like no, we make up 13% of the population. Anybody that knows anything about crime, if another black man kills another black man, he killed them because they are in the same proximity, and probably the guy that he killed, probably in that area, mostly going to be black people in that area. Not killing another black man just because he's a black man. That's not how this thing works. And there are plenty of campers at Drew Brees' camps or Peyton Manning's camps or Eli Manning's camps that are young black men. So I don't it really pissed me off to hear Shannon Sharp talk about it gotta be us. Like that shit, when I saw the fight, I saw black men. Yeah, the majority, they were all black men, but I wasn't thinking to myself like, damn, why gotta be black men fighting? No. Like, I'm like, there's a bad decision by people. Human beings making bad decisions. So you don't have to shit on your own kind and raise up somebody else's to make a point. It does not accomplish anything to me. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's just, but it can, and again, it's not the first time Shannon Sharp has done this. He said the same shit after with the Oscars, after when when Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. It had to be two black men. Instead of it being two human beings, one human being making a poor decision. Again, we can hold each other as human beings accountable for our actions without uplifting another race while tearing down our race as black people. Sometimes we have a hard time with that. Couple of things while I let you out, let you go. New podcast recommendations. The Native Land podcast is a very good podcast, especially in this time. It features Tiffany D. Cross, Angela Rye, and Andrew Gillum. Very informative as far as from a political lens. They do, they'll touch on some pop culture shit occasionally, but they mainly is a political podcast. If you're seeking real information, if you're seeking people who actually understand politics and know what the fuck is going on, that's your podcast. Like and it's not, they try to keep it under an hour. I actually think they probably could go longer if they wanted to and still get probably the same numbers, but who knows? I mean, maybe it's just strictly with, the less. Assuming people don't want to, have short attention spans, which is fine. But it is a great podcast, relatively new, about a month old. So Native Land podcast, I recommend that. Also recommend Too Personal, just basically just came out this week, featuring what are these names? Taylor Rooks and Joy Taylor. Taylor Rooks and Joy Taylor, two obviously superstar, talented media personalities who are out there, doing their thing as black women, and doing it at a high level. Both of them right now are just not rising stars, but are stars in their own right. They, of course, are close friends. They have a very interesting format from what I saw in the first. I saw like a clip of the first podcast. The first one they did was only like 16 minutes, but you saw Taylor Rooks discussing really not sharing emotions with her mom up until like a certain age, up until she basically just turned 31, and she got emotional with that, and somewhat not knowing how to feel, not knowing how to express her to be emotional. Very introspective, and again, a cool concept for them to be in a way interviewing each other and talking to each other. So those are two new podcasts that I certainly recommend you check out, along with the Real Deal podcast, of course. And finally, as we approach, election 2020, the November election will be right here before you know it. It'll be, we're basically at March now. It'll be November. November is seemingly will be right around the corner. You had the Michigan primary last night. Joe Biden, both Donald Trump, as expected, won. Something interesting happened in regards to Joe Biden. You had 100,000 uncommitted voters. That is, of course, terrible for Joe Biden. Not good news whatsoever. Michigan is, of course, a key battleground state. The last two elections, the candidate that has won Michigan has won the presidency. Trump in 2016, and Biden in 2020. So it's a very vital state has shown to be a vital state in terms of deciding who possibly will be the next president of the United States. Here's what I'll say. Democrats going to have a lot of work in regards to that result to do. There should not be 100,000 uncommitted voters anywhere. Okay, it just shouldn't be. Not telling anybody who to vote for. I'm just telling you, your ass should be voting. I've seen too much, whether it's the Breakfast Club, whether it's other people trying to dissuade people from voting. It is the most moronic and idiotic thing that you can possibly do. Okay. Do your research and take your ass to the polls. Don't ever let anybody tell you not to vote or try to dissuade you from voting. Please. Like, the government is not far from perfect. It'll never be perfect. But nothing, and when I mean nothing will get done unless you go out there and vote. And by the way, the voting process is just the first part of the process. You actually have to push these public servants, these politicians, who are public servants. They work for us. Push them to do better. Period. It just doesn't. The process does not begin or end by voting. But if you don't vote, you don't have a chance. Zero chance. And stop listening to people who say Democrats or Joe Biden hasn't done anything. It's not true. If you do research, you will realize a lot has been done over the course of the last 3 years. Can they do a lot better? Absolutely. But to say, if you hear somebody says Biden hasn't done anything, then they just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're clearly uninformed and clearly ignorant. Period. So go out there, vote, hold these officials accountable. Ultimately, me personally, I want to see this entire system destroyed. But until that happens, you still got to go out there and do the research and try to make a difference, in your own community, and pay attention to what the hell is going on. That's it. That's going to wrap it up on this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next time.